Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday today. Today is September 7th, and I am actually off at the local hospital today having a heart stress test. This is going to be interesting. It's the second one I've ever done. The first one, they had complications with the equipment and had to stop it before I actually finished the test. So this will be the first one I actually get to finish. It's not something that I'm really looking forward to just because it is so hot here right now and air conditioning is not really a thing in Europe for most places. So it's going to be a really hot and dreadful afternoon today. But at least it'll get done and I'll have it over with and won't have to do it for a couple more years. Now, I've been trying to figure out what to do today because I'm just, It's one of those weeks that I've got so much stuff to do and I just don't know how to get it all done. And so I'm kind of having a hard time focusing on how to do everything in the right order and get everything that I need to done accomplished. And the podcast was, and I hate to say this, I'm so sorry, but the podcast was the last thing on my mind. So I've been trying to figure out what to do for today. And the first thing that I thought about was talking about my Mutant Chronicles series that I've started doing on TikTok. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing about the fact that I have a malformed brain and neurological conditions, but it's, a big part of who I am and a lot of the things that I have to deal with on a daily basis. I mean, every minute of every day of my life. So it's important to me. It's part of who I am. And there's so many things that people don't know about neurological conditions or how to deal with people who have neurological conditions. So I thought, I've always wanted to really be an advocate for people who have neurological problems because it's so hard to find people to advocate for you because there's so little knowledge about it in the general public. So I decided I was going to try and be more of an advocate to help bring more awareness to what it's like to have these conditions or any kind of neurological problem or brain injury, brain damage, how we struggle to interact with the world around us and the people in it, and the things that those people can do to help us have a more productive life and be more part of society at large. I really wanted to advocate awareness. And so I started the Mutant Chronicles. And I think it's very fitting. People think that it's a little rude to call myself a mutant, but it's absolutely true. I have a mutation in my brain, which is what started all of the problems that I had. I am also now part cow because I had cow tissue implanted in my brain and part machine because I have a valve in the top of my head. It's, in my skull. You can't see it. It's under the hair. Nobody knows it's there unless I tell them. So, and my hairdresser, she knows it's there. But I thought I really wanted to do this in a fun, informative way. And so I started doing videos on TikTok called the Mutant Chronicles. I've only done 3 so far. And I find that it's really hard for me to keep to the 10-minute time limit that they have on there because I tend to talk a lot. I mean, that's why I started a podcast. Was so I'd have a place to talk a lot. So if you're interested at all in things that have to do with brain injuries or dealing with people with them, check out my Mutant Chronicles on TikTok and let me know what you think. I've posted at least one, I believe, on my own website in the blogs. So check them out. Tell me what you think. I'm really trying to not be too heavy-handed I never want to be condescending about any of this stuff, definitely. So I would really love getting some feedback. Tell me what you think. Do they come off good, informative, entertaining? Are they helpful? Do you care? Do you want to see more? Do you wish I would just shut up about it? Please feel free to give me your comments. Now, one of the other things, I have been working on my new book, The Touch, and I did a sneak peek of that on TikTok as well. I read just like the first page and like a paragraph of what the opening of the new book is going to be. And since this is so different of everything that I've written before that I've published, I've been trying to get a little feedback, what people think. And so far, the thing that I have loved is I worried, since I was doing very nice, clean, sweet, wholesome kind of stories before, where there's no cussing, no sex, no nothing. And this is like a complete polar opposite. It's FBI profiler tracking down a sexual predator serial killer. It has elements in it that, definitely need a trigger warning for some people because they could be very disturbing if you're sensitive to violence against women or any kind of assaults. So it's been such a different process for me. And I've been asking people, please, if you read these kinds of books, tell me, am I being too twisted or should I dive deeper? And almost every single person has, no, dive deeper, go. Hit the bottom, go deeper, we want to hear it. So that's actually what I'm doing. I'm going to my writers group tonight. I am part of a writers group on meetup.com. It is The Power of the Pen, in case you're interested. It's online. It's global. Anybody who is a writer can join. So you might want to check it out. There's some great people from all over the world in this group. But tonight we're getting together to work on our own projects. So I'm going to bounce some of this new stuff that I'm working on off of them. And most of them have heard all of my wholesome historical fiction series bits over the years as I've been working on them. So this will be interesting to hear how people who have heard that work before respond to my new venture. So that'll be really fun for me. I want to go ahead and give you a sneak peek here too, but I want to give you a trigger warning first. If you do not want to hear even hinted at assaults against other individuals, please skip forward, and I will put a chapter marker in the podcast so that you can skip over the sneak peek and go to the next bit, because we're going to have the writer's prompt at the end. I'm going to be talking about, my upcoming guest, Kara, who is a video maven, that if you do any kind of promotions online and you want to use video promotions, you will want to hear what this woman has to say, because she is fabulous with this. But I'll put a chapter marker in so that you can skip to the next part and not have to hear any of the sneak peek that we're going to do here. But if you do want to hear, here we go. It's going to be a sneak peek from chapter 1 of The Touch by Dianne Burkhart. Ashley slowly regained consciousness. She was disoriented, but still had the presence of mind not to open her eyes or give any indication she was becoming aware again. She knew better. She had learned the hard way. She kept her breathing shallow as she tried to lie still and just listen to the room around her. She could feel the cold of the cement floor against her bare skin. Grit on the floor was digging into her cheek, but that was the least of her aches and pains. Ashley could feel where he had violated her again. She was stiff and ached all over from whatever he had done to her while she was unconscious, and from being left sprawled out on the cold, hard cement floor for God knows how long. If there was anything she could be grateful for, it was his doll fetish. She preferred being drugged unconscious every time he visited her. If she was going to have to endure this nightmare, at least she wouldn't have to live with the memories of his attacks. If she lived through it at all, that is. Suddenly, a scream ripped through the hall outside of her cell. Ashley quickly opened her eyes and sat up. She knew from the scream she would be alone. The others only screamed if he was with them, punishing them for some infraction, real or imagined. If he wasn't punishing one of them, the women always stayed as quiet as possible, so as not to attract his attention. It was not a good thing to bring his attention to you for any reason. Ashley slowly got up off the floor. She tried not to sob as she looked at the state he had left her in. She was covered in filth that she didn't even want to try to identify. The blood was obvious, and from the odor she could guess some of the other fluids in the mix, but she refused to let her mind even try to name them. She did not want to know. She turned toward her bed, Trying to avoid catching glimpses of herself in the metal plates he had bolted in places around the cell walls, ceiling, and even the floor. The metal sheets were high gloss and very reflective. He liked to watch himself. He used these instead of glass mirrors. He had a scar on his face where one of his first poppets, as he called them, had broken a mirror in her cell and used a large shard to attack him. When she couldn't kill him, she killed herself. Ashley hadn't been in his doll collection back then, but he lectured all the new acquisitions about the attack when he brought them into his collection, as he gave them all a scar to match his, with the same shard of mirror his bad poppet had used on him. Ashley's hand slid over the scar on her face as she remembered her initiation. That wasn't the only way he tagged the women as his property after he kidnapped them, but she didn't want to think of the other way right now, or ever again if she had a choice. Ashley went to lie on her bed, but had stopped cold when she saw what was on top of the covers. There were flowers, white lilies in baby pink paper with a note. A sob caught in Ashley's throat. She didn't need to look at the note to know what the message was. Beneath the flowers was a box. It would have the clothes she was meant to put on for her evening with the doll maker. And that's where we're going to stop there. That's the same amount of sneak peek that I gave on TikTok, so I think that'll be good. Actually, you know what? I think I want to do a little bonus paragraph for all of you who listen to the podcast. So here's one more paragraph for that. Ashley turned and walked to the corner of her cell where there was a makeshift shower. She turned the faucet handle that fed a hose connected to a bucket hanging from the ceiling. Ashley braced herself for the cold water to hit her skin. She stood under the bucket as water began to trickle down through the holes that had been punctured in the bottom of the bucket, providing a weak shower of water. She grabbed a bar of soap and began to wash herself as best she could. Okay, we'll stop there, just so you have like a little bit extra for actually listening to my podcast. You know, I kind of want to do something a little bit different on each different social media platform so that it does entice people to listen to more than one thing, so that you get more of a full picture. I really plan to be doing a lot of work on this tonight and tomorrow, and I hope to do another sneak peek next week that has a bit with the FBI profiler who's going to be the main focus of this book. If this book does well, it could always become a series using this FBI profiler to do different cases, but we'll see how it goes. Right now, my only plan is to make this a standalone. We'll see how people feel after they read it. So it'll totally be up to the audience. But the next thing that I want to talk about is my friend Kara, who I think we have finally been able to sync up our schedules. We keep thinking we find a date and then something happens. But I think we have finally, the final date scheduled for our interview. And that will be on the 15th. And so her interview will show up the next available podcast after I get that all edited. But Kara is amazing. She has her own business called Wise Oak Soapery, and she creates all of these fabulous, beautiful, fragrant, natural, handmade soaps and washes that you can get from her website, wiseoaksoapery.com. And there's a link in the description of the podcast to her stuff. But she has been doing this home soap business for a while, and she started making all of these great video promotions for her own business. And so many people were asking her, who did that for you? That looks fabulous. And she does it herself. She has such a great eye for visual product placement and promotion. And she decided that she was going to create another side business that is Cavo Creative, where she actually teaches other people how to do these things with their products. And so that's what we're going to be talking to her about. And it doesn't matter if you sell soap or clothes or paintings or books. You can always use video promotions to promote your books. And the way that she describes, like how you do the lighting, how you do the camera setup, these things give you the best images of your product, no matter what it is. Even if your product is you will be able to find great information on how to make better videos. If you do TikTok videos, if you want to be an influencer, this is important for you as well. So be sure to keep watching all of my social media for the definitive date for her interview to show up. Look in my links at the bottom of the description of this podcast and check out her pages. You will not regret it. And you can actually take classes with her. You can sign up on her Cabo Creative site to learn how to do these things from her. So please check that out. And shockingly, I think that pretty much covers everything that I was wanting to get in here today. But the last thing that we need to do is our writer's prompt. Wait a minute. Writer's prompt challenge prompt. There we go. But here we go. I have been thinking about this. My birthday, which is September 19th, always falls on Talk Like a Pirate Day. So I wanted this to be kind of an inspiration for our next writer's prompt. And so here we go. Our writer's prompt for September 7th. Okay, so here we go. Our writer's prompt challenge prompt for September 7th. You work in a hospice and have been watching over an elderly man who had been a sailor, but not much else was known about him. He had no family or friends that you know of. When he passes, you find he left everything he owned, a safe deposit box, to you. When you get around to checking out the box, you find it only has 2 items in it. An old tattered map that looks like something you'd see in a museum, and a note. So what can you do with that? Write out your story. Maximum is 2 pages, double spaced, and send it in on our website. Just click the contact us and mail it in. And we're going to start reading these here fairly soon. I promise I'm going to get around to doing that. I really need to be more organized. But that is it for today. I hope it's not as hot where you are as it is here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And please do your best to go forth and be happy.